Lots of questions about the use of chemical weapons in Syria. Was nerve gas deployed? If so, which side has used it, Assad or the rebels? Confusion coming after Israeli airstrikes on the weekend that the Israelis are trying to be mum about. MPs in Canada are holding an emergency debate about what to do about the conflict. Bob Rae from the Liberals, who called for the debate, says Canada ought to be doing more. What's next in the escalating conflict, and should the U.S. and Canada be arming the rebels? Janice Stein, director of the Munk School of Global Affairs, is here to make sense of it all alongside Cliff May, president of the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. Both of you, let me start with you, Janice, and then over to Cliff. Obama administration is taking out a position, this notion that if chemical weapons are used, and it's confirmed, a red line has been crossed. It's a game changer, according to Obama. What do you make of now the chemical weapon allegations, the Israeli involvement, and what this means in terms of how we should respond?
You know, Evan, actually, the Obama administration is backing away from that position. I think what the president meant to say and didn't say when he used the red line, game changer language, is if chemical weapons are used on a large scale. What the evidence is suggesting is there was chemical weapons. They don't yet have, to quote the UN today, incontrovertible proof. But I don't doubt that anybody thinks it wasn't the Assad regime, but it was relatively small scale. That's what's causing the bind for the Obama administration. It's actually not prepared to intervene militarily if the provocation was only small scale.
Cliff May, what's your sense of where this goes and what the response ought to be?
Well, the response really shouldn't be focused on the chemical weapons. I mean, if Obama shouldn't say this will be consequential, this is a red line, do anything here and you'll be sorry, and then not have a list of things that he could do. It's just bad for credibility. But look, that's not the main thing here. We've had 75,000 people killed in Syria, and we have a civil war that is very consequential, not just for Syria, but for the region. That's where the focus should be, and that's what we should be thinking about. Now, as for what's bringing attention right now, it's the fact that the Israelis actually, for the third time since January, have intervened not on either side in the civil war, but to prevent weapons, particularly very accurate, very large missiles, Fatah 110s, from going from Iran through Syria to Hezbollah and Lebanon. Israel has been clear, we are not going to allow these weapons, which are game changers for Hezbollah, to reach Hezbollah if we can avoid it. They are not intervening against Assad or for Assad. They'd rather Assad fall. The problem is that the most effective combatants against Assad right now are Salafi jihadists, some of them very closely linked with al-Qaeda, some of them not, and then you have some Muslim Brotherhood. So it's a difficult strategic situation. I think we do want Assad to fall, mostly because of the strategic impact in Iran, but what comes after, not pretty.
Janice, pick up on that. I mean, there's two elements. I just want to say one last thing on the chemical weapons. Again, the General Secretary of NATO, Rasmussen, has said the possible use of chemical weapons is a breach of international law.
It is.
Okay, we understand that, but the question then is, what do you do if they're used and if it's confirmed? And the second question is, how can you support the rebels without supporting the jihadis?
So for the first question, Evan, what do you do? I think everybody recognizes that you cannot bomb these 20 or so storage sites from the air because you risk, in fact, diffusing some of the components. So that's out. The United States is not prepared, nor is anybody else, frankly, prepared, including the Israelis, to put boots on the ground to secure these sites, and I think that's the right decision. So what does that leave you as an option? It actually leaves the option that Israel has exercised over the last 48 hours. You take out or you bomb the delivery systems. And that's fundamentally, in this case, Cliff is quite right, these were missiles that were on their way to Hezbollah, but the principle is the same, and I think that's exactly what the Obama administration is thinking about. You bomb the missiles that would be used to deliver the chemical weapons where they would have a large-scale impact. How do you intervene here and be selective? You have to have people on the ground who monitor who gets the arms under what conditions. There's no substitute here for covert operatives who channel and monitor where the arms are going. That's what people have been arguing for months.
Cliff, I got about a minute for you to respond to that.
I don't disagree with very much of that. It's very hard now to intervene, although I'm not saying we shouldn't. A couple of years ago, we probably had better options. Now we have bad options and worse options, and a wise policymaker needs to be able to distinguish between the two. There are many minorities in Syria that do not want to live under Assad and do not want to live under jihadis. I'm talking about Kurds, Syriacs, who are Christians but an ethnic group, the Chaldeans, the Druze, many others. I think you want to give them the means to defend their communities. That doesn't mean manpads. It doesn't mean big missiles. What it means is rifles and guns and things like that, because they're under attack by Assad, by the jihadis, and by thugs. And I think we want to protect them. To the extent we can, we want to support the more moderate, not the moderate factions, and that's going to be difficult. But 2 years and a multi-billion-dollar intelligence service should be able to have distinguished between those we absolutely can't trust in our enemies and those we can get along with, at least for the short run.
All right, I got to leave it there. Janice Stein and Cliff May. By the way, Cliff has Cliff. I think your article ran in the Post media chain saying Guantanamo Bay should not be closed. That's right.
I didn't say it shouldn't be closed. I said the complications of closing it are much more difficult than most people recognize. If you want to close it, you have to do something with those who are in Guantanamo. What do you do with them? There are about 46 that the Obama administration has said are too dangerous to release. There are another 56 who could be released, not that they're not dangerous, not that they're innocent, but to Yemen. And in Yemen, al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula is very active, and they would go back to that battle. Obama doesn't want them to do it, so what do? We don't have an answer. You need a plan before you close it.
All right, I got to leave it there. Janice Stein, Cliff May, boy, do we want to get into that debate. That's a really good debate. We'll have it again. I know both of you want to dig in. All right, thanks for coming on.